how you wanted to close a loan there with a check. This is how we have all evolved. If there are old timers there, you'll realize how taking a home loan or even taking a personal loan was such a big task, especially home loan. I have my colleague here who's joining us in some time now. It took him almost 25 days to secure a home loan. Typically happens is that you call up the bank, they will associate a representative with you. The documents will be collected by a runner who will come collect multiple documents. He'll forget one, he'll come again. So it will happen for multiple days. Then it will actually go to the credit underwriting process. The credit manager will review. He will also pinpoint some things, and then again the runner runs again. So the entire process is so manually intensive that it takes a lot of time to actually process the entire loan, which could have been done much better off if technologies were used. What we are trying to showcase here, it looks pretty simple. There's a lot that goes behind it. We have talked enough from the morning session itself that the customer applies and it's omnipresent. So customer applies for a loan, or if he has half filled the application, he can continue that on a website, or he can go to his office and continue on his mobile or on his laptop. Then the analysis happens. There's a lot of data analytics that gets into the particular BFSI has partnered with Perfios and multiple other technology partners. And the analysis and real-time approval of that particular application is done then and there. As soon as it is published or it is submitted by the customer, it happens within 120 seconds or so. I'm sure it is in principle approval. There are obviously regulations that requires a lot of documents to be collected, but at least the customer knows where he's standing. Unlike previously, the customer was actually making those multiple calls to figure out where do I really stand. Do I have that loan approved or not? Should I go to a different bank, or should I go to a different lending company? That is not the specific case here. Obviously, with our information, with what Perfios does, I'll talk about more Perfios a little later. What we typically do is we provide accurate information. It obviously happens faster. It gives you authentic information. We collect data from authentic sources and analyze and tell you what exactly happens. Obviously, capacity to pay, whether that customer is eligible enough to pay or not. And obviously, it becomes very efficient for you to approve that particular application. It's cost efficient, and obviously it reduces risk. These are various documentation that could be, there could be risk, there could be fraudulent documents that the person could be uploading. Enough things that can go wrong, may go wrong. So obviously this has enhanced that particular companies. I'm just taking one example. We work with multiple financial organizations, including large banks. This is just one example where I cannot quote the numbers, but this is actual case study. They have actually come and given us some numbers. They have increased revenue because of the efficiency that they got into the processing. Costs were reduced. Obviously, there was no runner running around. The application processing was much faster. It had good quality customer. We were able to eradicate these customers who were not really interested in buying, but there were a lot of runners running around and wasting time of the credit underwriters as well. And obviously, it's a delighted customer who gets the answer up and there. So ultimately, coming back to the focus on what truly we are trying to focus on. Operational excellence, efficiency, ensuring that we have technology as enablers, but also ensuring that our my team does much more than that. I can put a technology enabler in place and replace 30 people. Is that how technology enabling works? I don't think so. We have multiple case studies. We work with banks, NBFCs, insurance companies. I have a couple of clients sitting right here. There's a large mutual fund company for which we deployed a different product, where that technology was almost replaced 22 people. But that doesn't mean they lost their jobs. They were trained enough to do something better off, rather than doing a very, very, very manual intensive work. So that's not how technology enabling works. It works in a very different manner. This question was posed, a very similar question was posed by Pallav in the morning session. Just show of hands, how many of us are below 29 years of age in the audience? Okay, not many here. But how many of you actually read the newspaper to get the news in the morning? Those who raised their hand. And how many of you read the newspaper because you had not seen that news before on Twitter yesterday? Okay, so what I'm trying to say here is that by 2020, the average age of an Indian would be 29 years. this is the age and below where the customer, that particular individual in India is not waiting for a newspaper to arrive and then he reads the news. That person has already read that news almost 24 hours before that newspaper came. So what you're reading is stale news. By the time the newspaper hits your doorsteps, you're actually reading something that is happening right now, which is on Twitter, on LinkedIn, on Facebook. Or Twitter is the most aggressive social media that gets very aggressive, to use that right word. So this is the audience which books tickets online. He is actually doing applying for a loan or applying for anything online on mobile. Like seamlessly it is done, like a Kindle app. You have a Kindle app on your mobile, you have a Kindle on your Mac. Everywhere there's Kindle. So you can start reading where you left on any of your device. Very similarly, this audience, the average Indian, is trying to figure out things wherever they want to do it. You cannot hold this guy and say, hey, you have to go to this particular branch and get things done. No, you have lost him already. So this is the audience which is up and on technology all the time, 24/7, by the way. So when you wake up, what do you check? Even before you're up off the bed, you're actually checking your mobile and you're checking your Facebook feeds or Twitter feeds or your mail. Just a quick numbers on what is the IT adoption percentage in the Indian BFSI segment. That's the number that has been come up in particular research. That's around 8 billion in BFSI sector in India for the coming year. That's hardly 1.5 to 2% of the entire revenue that the BFSI sector will actually generate. Is it high? Is it low? I don't know. You tell me. You guys are the best judge of the percentage here. I personally feel it is very low. If technology is an afterthought, you will never be able to address that customer who is 29 years of age or low. So if you are not adopting technology right now, you better be, because that's where the actual consumer is moving forward to. So what typically holds you back? Many of our people sitting here are my customers, or I'm actually interacting with you for something or the other. What typically holds you back in ensuring that you gain technology in your organization? This is what I feel holds you back. You tell me if I'm wrong. You yourself maybe holding yourself back. Obviously, old habits die hard. It's very difficult for any individual to say that this will be done differently, very differently from tomorrow onwards. It's very difficult. I totally understand. But you have to overcome that. If you have to survive in the industry that you are particularly in. I might be the outsider telling you, but eventually you will also realize, you have already realized, otherwise you wouldn't be sitting here. You would have already realized that this is the change forward. You have to move forward, change something to get out of the way. So human resistance is the biggest challenge that we have personally faced in the entire organizational discussion. We are a startup organization, so we face it on a daily basis, because it becomes very challenging to give a presentation talking about how efficient you can become when I'm myself not from the BFSI industry. So those are the challenges that startups feel every day, every hour, every meeting that we do a demo from. I have a lot of case studies on how we struggle to pitch into larger organizations, and we got through only hours after years of presentations into a particular meeting. Do you have the right intentions to do it? If you have the right intentions, you will be able to overcome the previous bottleneck. That's human resistance. Processes, obviously. If you change the fifth process, obviously it has to start off from first, second, third, and fourth. Do you really feel that changing fifth process is good enough for you to change everything? Will it stumble everything down? If that is the case, then you'll have to figure out the process has to change properly. Because if you have to take technology as an enabler in your organization, it has to change few of the processes in between. As we talked about the case study in the first slide itself, that particular organization, and many more when we started off working. Today we work with almost every BFSI segment lending digital company in the country and abroad as well. Most of them have changed the process because they wanted the technology to be one of the key area in their entire process. So if they had 10 processes in their blueprint, they actually have 3 processes now, including the best technologies in the world. That's the least of the things that you should be thinking of. You should not be thinking of technology as an afterthought, saying that I don't have budget for this. I'm good with what I'm doing. I'll go to another case study here. In 2013, 12 and 13, we built a product for the independent financial advisors and wealth management firms. I don't know if there's an independent financial advisor here. If not, let me go to that case. That industry is where we build something for that particular industry where independent financial advisors can manage their customers' data into one platform. We built that platform. We realized after we started talking to these people that they did not have budget for technology. So even if I have the software ready and we can actually help them to reduce the running around, they did not have the budget for me. So obviously I'm not running an NGO here, so I would expect money to be delivered for the product that I give. There was no budget for it, so we had to shut that product down because I realized there was no audience there, or the customer itself was not ready to pay for that kind of a innovation. So maybe we were way too early in the market, but there are areas where we have seen, personally I have seen, where we have pitched for a particular product and it has not flown because somebody did not have the budget itself. And again, we have talked about an afterthought. We have built everything and then you realize, oh, we should use some technology here. It could be Perfios, it could be anybody else, but if it is an afterthought, you'll have to reinvent, re-engineer everything, and that will cost a lot for you. So if you're thinking beforehand, that would be better off. There are enough examples where because of peer pressure you have invested in technology, but the person who was heading the project has moved on, and then the other guys were not really interested in using that particular product. Now that shows that the intentions were right, that there was no human resistance, the processes were good, but then it was left in no man's world. You have to ensure that the project is taken up well, if it actually benefits the company. If company that itself thinks that it is not really benefiting, then it becomes a different use case. But if you have invested in technology, you have spent so much of money on it, you should definitely continue using it. So ensure that if the project later moves on, you have to ensure that it is passed on to the right people in the right manner and the right fashion. So obviously, being from Perfios, I'll talk about what Perfios does. You have to ensure that the technology is used in every step of processing that happens in your organization. There are multiple ways of efficiency that you can get into. You can be channel efficient, you can be online efficient, you can be efficient in terms of other things that we do. I'm talking about various ways in which we can do efficiency better off, like in real-time decisioning or real-time solutions that we provide, application processing. These are the areas where we can provide efficiency. But you have to use these steps as well. This is exactly what happens when you use technology but let go of these people. The people who were actually putting their manual force when technology replaces them. You should not think that this guy is useless now because I have used technology. There has to be skill upgrade. That person is needed in your organization. That person is very critical for you. You have to ensure that you upgrade his skill. He is used in a better fashion, in a better way, in a better step in the entire process. Train the trainer is something that we do most often in large banks that we work with, large BFSI customers that we have. Perfios cannot be everywhere wherever products have been implemented. We train the trainers to ensure that they train another trainer, and then it goes down to the project team members as well. Because if the usage, if the product is good, the company has invested, the management has invested, the product is also good. It's better that we train these people, and obviously each person cannot be available for training 10,000 people across the country and other regions as well. It's better off to train other people to ensure that they also train others. So train the trainer is one of the best concepts that you should use. This happens in most of the technology companies, but I'm not sure if it happens at your end. Especially, I'll quote my own example. In Perfios, we have just a 60-member company. Somebody asked who works in 10,000 employees and more. We were a 60-member company. Because we are so small, there are so many employees who are very specific in particular technology. Now, if that guy is on leave for 7 days, I'm stuck. So I shouldn't be in that situation at all. You should have people who should have enough skills and multiple people having multiple skills to ensure that it is not stuck with few people. So let's say you take something from Perfios and then you have trained 2 people out of 10,000 people. And then these guys don't know what to do, and then what if these guys move on? Then you will get back into a situation where you have invested in technology but you are not using it. So that's not how it should be. It should be trained enough. It should be popular enough in the entire organization. as funny as it sounds, it's actually right. Many times I have worked with larger organizations before. I have seen many times many people actually want to be productive enough, or they want to be efficient enough, but there are so many processes the person has to go through that the team just gives up. Says, I don't want to do it, yeah. This is too much. So the processes should be simpler. I'm not talking about from Perfios perspective at all. I'm saying the process should be simple enough for even your own team members to be productive. Back to what Perfios does. As I was saying, we are a real-time analysis and decisioning solutions company. We have been around for almost 9 years now. We started off as a personal finance management tool. We started off as a personal finance management tool. Today we do a lot of credit analysis, real-time analysis, decisioning, verification, fraud checks, a lot of things. Mostly in the lending segment, but we have various products where mutual fund companies, insurance companies are using our products. Most of you are using our products, so you'd be familiar with a few things. Just a brief on what we typically do. It's a product technology company, one of the best in the country as of now. We have the best decisioning and data analysis services, the best and the most advanced bank statement analysis tool that we have. We can pull data directly from an account or read any kind of a bank statement. It could be any bank statement in the country, and we can read and give you some sense out of it. So lending becomes much easier, or any other business that you're into which requires bank statements to be read through. We have the best money management SaaS solution. Somebody was asking on how if there are 3 bank accounts to be aggregated and checked through. That's the solution that you should be using. We already have 100 plus clients in India and a couple of regions as well. We work with obviously banks, AMCs, insurance companies, various companies. The innovations team is in Bangalore, and we have another office in Mumbai as well. We have experts from all the region as well. This is just a brief on what we typically do. We can check capacity, income, employment, fraud, all kinds of checks that is required for any financial organization to go through verifications and checks is done by Perfios. So if you are in any such business where all these 4 things are required, this is the product that you should be definitely reviewing at this point in time. We can cater to bank statement, balance sheet, Form 26s, ITR. We have also gone through enough lab testing on SMS in data, email information, demographic, mobile data, social media, telecommunication data, all kinds of information we have analyzed and can actually give you a combined report of a particular application if you wish to. We have gone into all kinds of segments as well. There are segments that you would have not even thought of. We are talking about matrimony segment. That's an interesting segment to get into. We're talking about employment. We're talking about healthcare. It's not only BFSI, we are actually getting into a lot of other industries as well. So that's the interesting area that we are getting into. Needless to say, these are the best brands that works with us. It ranges from the large banks to insurance companies to NBFCs. You name any and we would actually be working with them. Now, what are the challenges we face? As I talk about, the technology enablers also face resistance. We know better, outsider, and whether we are secure enough or not. The biggest challenge that I personally face is the outsider challenge, because it looks like many feel that they can actually develop the technology themselves, and another startup coming and teaching them that this is how it should be done. We are not actually trying to teach anyone. We're just trying to showcase that this product is good enough for you to use. So you should definitely start using it from tomorrow. Tech is the way forward, and all I'm trying to emphasize is that skills should be upgraded and the processes should be enhanced as well. Thank you so much. Any questions, if any?